Okay, so this is the third part of the meeting for the SNARS July 2021 meeting. So we're just in the open Q&A session about anything. Could be about art in the presentation, anything about ham radio SNARS. We've got a good 25 minutes to the top of the hour. Who has things they want to share? Come now. George, we can't hear you. You come across super high, weird, Donald Duck. So for whatever other reason, we can't hear you. No, maybe disconnect and reconnect and see if the problem goes away. It's something weird. Sorry, George. Or put it into the text. Maybe if you disconnect and reconnect. Sorry, George. Who else has something they want to say? Well, I have a question, Rob. How did you get into it? What was your entry point, or did somebody get you into it down in Marin?
Well, I actually played with HSMM back in 2015, Barry. And so our shed at home still has a box full of 27 WRT-54 routers that I bought at a fire sale. So I found immediately the limitations that I think Clint's referring to with the HSMM system, and wasn't able to really develop anything of significance. Since then, for our public service events, we've been trying to look at the GoTenna mesh system, and some of you may be familiar with this. This is a way of text messaging through open connections across a relatively narrow area. So you can build a mesh with about 1 kilometer maximum links, and it works at 900 megs, and it's surprisingly effective, but it's difficult to manage, and we've never really deployed it for public service, even though it might be a good way to get around the issue that we always have of how on earth do you send lists of people's names or lists of supplies and stuff like that in a public service event without having to laboriously read it out and do retransmissions and phonetics. So that's how I got involved, through public service, Barry.
Very good. Okay, well, who else has questions, comments, thoughts about art or anything else? Just open up your mic and ask away.
Did I see Bill K7WHH reaching for his his mute button?
I was actually heading for my scanner just to turn it down. But Rob,
Okay.
super interesting. I'm fairly new, just at 2 years. Came from 30 years of public safety, just using VHF, UHF, and 800. So it's fascinating. Looks like it's an important project. It was way up here for me still, but yeah, I think it's something we need to look at. And people up here in the North Valleys, if they can get up this way, I think that would be good too. Thanks again, Rob.
Okay, thank you, Bill.
BIB again.
Go ahead.
Sorry, if nobody's asking, I have more. So help me draw a parallel. So I have a packet server at my location, and I have a packet client in my Jeep. So in a public service event, let's say you need to deploy the Jeep somewhere, you're going to provide a local Wi-Fi connection, right? From that client to the area that you serve, they are able to pass messages to families. This thing beams up into my VHF, server, packet server, and so on. Translate the mesh now. Do you need to have a beam on top of your, car pointed at the nearest, node? And how does this work with respect to people in that affected area connecting the same way they would connect with the regular, Wi-Fi to your AP point to pass messages into the network in an emergency situation?
Well, obviously, if you've got access to the internet through Wi-Fi, then you really don't need the mesh. That's one of the solutions we've been promoting in Marin, is instead of trying to struggle with packet networks and WinLink and all the issues that are surrounding that, why not just get Wi-Fi into all our rest stops, and or get the internet into all our rest stops? So we're looking at doing that with a little bit of Part 15 backhaul. So we're using 2.4 and 4.8, 5.8 gig mesh connections, and Part 15 point-to-point connections, but then it's still a struggle. And Marin's probably worse than up here in terms of getting into narrow gullies and stuff where people want to set up stops. The packet network, I'm not a fan for. I find it unscalable. It's not connected to the internet, so you don't have any access to the normal things we've got used to over the years in terms of the ability to get traffic off a node and into a PC or onto a memory stick or printing it out. I find packet very limiting, and we discovered in our 45-minute testing 2 weeks ago that it was unusable even with eight nodes. People trying to send messages, and what happened, of course, and everyone knows how this works if they've played with WinLink, is everyone just went back to using Telnet and just using the internet to interconnect the WinLink nodes, which works great. Now, if instead of going to Telnet, and those of you who've used WinLink know how good Telnet is because you're just using the internet, instead of going to Telnet, you go onto the mesh. So when you've got a message that you want to transmit, instead of going through the grief of trying to get on a VHF or an HF radio node, just go onto your packet node and then go through the mesh, through the post office, to transmit your WinLink traffic. Does that address things partly, Bogdan?
I think so. I was thinking, like, in an affected area, let's say power goes out downtown Truckee, and then you have to provide emergency communication backup for folks in there. I know how this works in a packet world. I don't quite understand how you're going to make this work through the mesh, unless, I mean, even if you put a mesh node on a mobile unit, as you mentioned, like, about the other person that was doing this. Let's say you deploy that mobile unit in that affected area. Now what happens?
Well, first of all, most of our plans are to provide fixed nodes at served agencies like the Sheriff's Department. So in San Francisco, the EOC, the Sheriff's EOC in San Francisco, the Sheriff's EOC in Alameda, and if I get my act together in Marin, the Sheriff's EOC in Marin will all be connected on the mesh as a third or maybe even fourth level of communications for these guys to run all the services that I explained in my presentation. As far as the mobile thing goes, then you, Bogdan, with your Jeep, drive up to a place that doesn't have service, and if you can stand up your sector antenna or even a dish to get access to a node, then you can turn up service very quickly, and then you've got access to all the capabilities that the mesh has. Quite apart from Clint's issues about speed, because you may actually be at the fag end of a lot of links and you may not get the speed you want, but it may still be better than nothing, and it may be better than packet. Total silence.
Any other questions about Arden or ham radio or SNARS or anything? Ask away. Bogdan, do you want to talk just for a moment a little bit about your DMR and Fusion repeaters and what you have up there?
Sure, happy to. So this is something I built just to start off with. It's not a high tower or anything like that off the shelf, a DMR repeater, and for a reason. I built it off a what's called a Pi-Star image with the radio hardware and so on, and they go into a two Motorola CDMs 1550. One for receive and one for transmit, and from there it goes into a UHF amplifier that takes it to about 100 watts before bandpass, band reject filtering, and so on, and the duplexer. But you can access it publicly over the internet at k6bib.9dns.org. I think you, without admin access, you can see all the traffic that's going there, and it's open to Fusion and DMR. The mode switches, if you try to use them back to back, probably you need about 10 seconds to allow the mode to reset before you can switch to the other mode. But yeah, it's statically linked, SNARS on TOC group 2, the dynamic ones are on 1. It's published into repeater book, and it's a backup node to what we have at Relay Peak. If you want, definitely I can run that power indefinitely, since I have a Generac generator at home, in case things go dark into the track area. I think it sees all the way, of course, into Relay Peak. It sees into North Star. It sees back into over Tahoe Donner and so on. Let me pause there. Any questions?
So that's great, particularly for the Truckee and parts of the North Shore. Okay. Thank you so much. Any other questions, thoughts, comments from anybody? We have time if people have stuff. Tom ETO, do you have anything you want to add about Arden or anything?
No, if I get the link up, I'll send a note to everyone. Whoever can reach it is happy to use it. I welcome anyone to hop on.
I'm in Northwest Reno on Rob Drive. Where are you located?
Rob, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, sure, I know where you are. I think there's dirt in the way between us. I'm almost at the corner of McCarran and 80. What else?
There may not be, because I'm up on the top of the hill.
Right. Yeah. No, I see your antennas as I go get ice cream.
That's somebody else.
Yep.
That's Steve, probably at across from Rayleigh's. I'm up a little higher, but anyway, keep going.
All right. Anyway, so I'll to support Rob, I'll put up a link, and if people can get on, great. And if they want to expand it, other people can do the same thing.
Great. The part that I'm most pleased about is, first of all, I didn't realize there was this new version. I knew with the HSMM way back when, and it's great to have a number of you getting involved and moving this thing forward. I think we'll get a lot of traction out of today's presentations. Any other questions, comments? Open forum. Anybody got anything? Anything in closing, Rob, you want to say?
Yeah, I can just show you a picture of my HAP. So this is on my phone now. So this is the MikroTik HAP that is connected via this connection to my router. So there's the router, RJ45 connection, and I can now go into this by browsing to that IP address on just on my phone. So this has a 2.4 gig access point, so I can go in here, log into this HAP, and get on the mesh without having even a radio. And now what I'm going to do this afternoon is stand up a node on my back lawn on a tripod with going through here. This provides 24 volt power PoE. And so I'll run 100 feet of Cat6 up to the top of my property here, and put up a tripod so that when I go up to Relay Peak, I can test back to the house.
Where in Tahoe Donner are you located?
It's on Solvang, but there's enough trees around that I don't think I can get in. Actually, I know I can't get into Relay Peak because, as Bogdan mentions, there's foliage in the way.
I suspect we're winding down. I'm not hearing from too many other people. Anybody else have anything?
So the slides were in the chat. I put them in the chat. I can't get my phone back. Can't get my picture back. But the slides are on Google Sheets, and so anyone who wants to copy them is welcome. It's welcome to do anything that they want with the slides. I'm not copywriting them or anything.
Before we turn off the system, anybody else have anything about Arden or ham radio or SNARS or anything? This is the time. I'm not hearing anything, so I'll stop the recording. Thanks for everything for today, for July the 3rd, 2021. Wow, great picture. Where is that at?
That's Diamond Peak. So that's on the deck at the restaurant at Diamond Peak. One of the best views of any ski area restaurant.
Okay, stop
Okay,
the
we done?
recording. Thanks everybody.
Okay.
Yep.